We have news to discuss. After many, many years away, Demolition. They're finally getting invited. Who would have thought a Hall of Fame class of Stephanie McMahon, Demolition, and AJ Styles together? I mean, could we have predicted this 15 years ago?
I guess not. No, not 15 years ago. I don't think I'd be making these sort of predictions. I honestly don't know if you could predict every class, any class.
No. There's usually not some kind of theme to too many.
No.
I mean, not often at least. But yeah. So Demolition is going in. Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow. Maybe they'll give a tip of the cap to the late Bryan Adams. But yeah, this is an interesting one because it's certainly like a heavily nostalgic team from, for many fans' childhood. This was WWF's answer to the Road Warriors that they came up with. But Bill Eadie, like, this is a guy that had you could argue he was right at the cusp of like a legit Hall of Fame level career as the mass superstar in Georgia and Mid-Atlantic. Like he was a lot older than people might have thought. Like he was, he's 78 right now. So I am happy to see they are doing this now because, when a guy is 78, you don't know how many more opportunities you will have to do something like this for him. And it's obviously been something that I feel that, a lot of fans have wanted to see Demolition go in. I can't speak to how much they desired this, but but Bill Eadie, he was a very, very big star before WWF, but he came in as the masked superstar, working when Backlund was champion in '83, worked a bit with Hogan in '84, and then left, came back. He was part of that Machines gimmick where he was Super Machine, and then got repackaged as Axe, and the original Demolition team was going to be him and Randy Colley, who was Moondog Rex. And what happened was they did their match, and Randy Colley is getting catcalled from the crowd. They all recognize who he is, even behind the paint, and they're chanting Moondog at him. And they basically, after one night, just scrapped it, and Darsow got the position. So the original Smash was going to be Randy Colley in January of '87. And then they had their run. They won the tag belts at WrestleMania 4 and held it for almost until the following summer in July of '89. They had a very, very long first reign with the title of their three that they held. And then the circumstances in 1990, they brought in Bryan Adams to be the third man, and Axe at the time, so he's outlined this. He had this terrible reaction to shellfish. He ate this shellfish, and it gave him such a bad reaction. It gave him an irregular heartbeat, and they were very concerned about what this was. And he ended up going, he got on treatment, and it seemed to correct itself. And then, at this point, you also have to remember he's 42 years old. And it seemed like part of it was also, he's getting up there. They put in Bryan Adams, and it seemed like this was Vince's way to kind of usher Axe on the way out. And he had promised him a role as a road agent, and he was going to finish off and then just take a behind the scenes role in the company. He, his heart to him was fine afterwards, and there didn't seem to be any issue, but he wrapped up at the Survivor Series in 1990. And then right after that, Vince basically had to start cutting down his dates to the point that, and he had told him after this issue, you'll have a job for life is what Eadie had said he was told. And then basically Vince reneged on the deal, and he didn't get his job, left the company, and then he sued WWF. And this suit went on, he sued over having this oral agreement with Vince McMahon for this backstage job that they reneged on, and the fact that a lot came out in this lawsuit, including just the the payoffs that wrestlers were getting. This is all outlined in the Six Pack, which is Brad Baluchian's book, but in the '80s, the talent were getting minuscule royalties for their action figures. They weren't even getting pay-per-view payoffs. They were still getting paid just based on the house and not pay-per-view payoffs. And this suit went on for a decade before they finally settled. And it sounded like Edie got a very satisfactory amount of money because of this settlement, but it went all the way until 2001. And then in 2016 was that class action lawsuit that both Darso and Edie were a part of, against the WWF, claiming that they had knowledge of the effects of concussions and CTE and withheld it from the talent, as well as being misclassified as independent contractors. And many have surmised that, their involvement in that case probably kept them away from any WWE involvement. But things had kind of been smoothed over this last year or so. And so they're going into the Hall of Fame. But I've always assumed it's several of those legal issues that probably prevented this from happening, because they were one of those obvious choices for a Hall of Fame, and probably some were just assuming these guys had already been in the Hall of Fame. But, really memorable theme song, memorable look, certainly like normalized kink to a young male audience, so influence certainly through the roof. What more could you ask for Hall of Fame candidates?
I wonder if they'll show up in this getup.
I think they have to for one final time. They've got to be in the paint, right? Like I would think.
I'm not. I was more so referring to the studs and the.
You just go all out for one more time. Yeah, I think so. A 78-year-old man in this. It's
your last chance, really. Come on, no judgment.
I think this is how you do it. And
That's right.
Does this open the door for a second induction for Repo Man?
That one is a bit more doubtful, but
Yeah.
I feel like we'll probably hear a little bit about Repo Man and many of the other gimmicks that both men have had to live with, I would say, for much of their career. But in these sort of situations, I think it always offers like a nice way to hear about the stories of these veterans that otherwise probably don't get talked about a whole lot, at least not on a stage like this. So you could say what you want about like the legitimacy of a Hall of Fame. I just look at it as a night.
These guys are a very memorable team. Like it's silly to talk.
It doesn't
about
matter. That's not even to me the point of the Hall of Fame. The point of the Hall of Fame is to hear some speeches from people reflecting on the entirety of their careers. And to them, whether or not you think it's real, to them it's incredibly real. And I look forward to these passionate speeches.
Yeah, both of them just put out books recently, like over the past year. And I haven't read either of them. I actually have the Barry Darso book, but the Bill Eadie one, like again, he has had this incredible career. And just looking, it's like 144 pages. And I was like, man, is this I don't know how in depth it is, but I haven't read it, so I cannot judge, because this guy has had a really, really stellar career. Like you could certainly, he was, someone that, when the Observer Hall of Fame, like he would always be a name that was, very much debated in terms of, his credentials and such that go well beyond just the WWF. The Post Wrestling Cafe is your one-stop shop for all of the coverage that Post Wrestling has to offer. 2 big rewind-aways this month with WWF Insurrection from May of 2002. This UK-only pay-per-view featured the Raw brand going overseas and ending with the infamous plane ride from hell. Then we're going to take a look at AWA's Super Sunday from April of 1983. A new edition of Talk Can Be Yours, plus MCU Later, Book Club, and coverage of UFC 326, TNA Sacrifice, and of course, XL editions of Rewind a Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown with all the news of the day. Join now at postwrestlingcafe.com.